Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 fragrances, top 10 cheap fragrances for fall, so stay tuned for that. If you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Really do appreciate it. So when I was making this list, I set a price limit. It was $40 USD, so all of these fragrances can be found on online discounters for that price or cheaper. There were a couple that I am going to give honorable mentions because they were just outside the price range, but I was very strict when making this up about the price range, and so things that were even $1 more got cut out. I tried to stay a lot away from clone houses. There's a lot of fantastic clone houses out there, and there are a lot of great clones that you can get under $40. Might do a video about, a top 10 clones or something like that at some point, but there are a few in here that are kind of clones of other fragrances. But I did try to keep it at a minimum. I wanted original fragrances mostly in this one. I'm going to start off with the honorable mentions. I'm not going to give too much detail about them. But some fragrances that I did find that are really, really good, that are just a little outside the price range. Paco Rabanne 1 Million Privé. I think the lowest I saw this one for is $44 USD, which I think is actually a very fair price. This one has tobacco, cinnamon, honey. It reminds me a lot of Oajon by Parfums de Marly, and that's probably the main reason I don't own it. They're not the same, they're not identical, but the DNA there is very, very similar for me. Very great fragrance. I would recommend, you can often find this one in a Sephora or something. You can get your nose on it and see if you like it, because it is a really, really, really great fragrance. The next one, the One EDP. You can find the EDT under the $40 mark, but personally for me, I don't like the EDT that much. The EDP is just so much deeper and richer, and I think it's worth the extra money if you want to get the one by Dolce & Gabbana. The next one, Stronger with a U. I did actually see, I believe it was a 1 ounce for $41, so it just missed, and that is a really, really great one for the fall and winter. And, it's just one of these cozy, romantic, cuddling kind of fragrances, and it does really well at that. So that is definitely another great one. And the last one, Man in Black by Bulgari. This one was, I think, the lowest I found it for was $46. I think it was for a 1 ounce, but I'm not entirely sure. It might have been a slightly bigger size. But again, a little outside the price range. I don't know why people compare this one to Spice Bomb. Yes, it's got spices in it, but to me they smell very, very different. So, in any case, I'm now actually going to get into the list. And they're in kind of no particular order. It's just 10 really good fragrances that can be gotten for a cheap price. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is Oud Touch. I don't want to say too much about this, but I should actually direct you to Mo, the scented engineer. I feel like he's the guy who really talked about this one the most and really said the most about this one in the community and got people to really try it. He's got a good YouTube channel as well, so do check him out. And he does talk about this fragrance. He said it's one of his most complimented fragrances, and it's very cheap. I think it's about $25. And it's a really nice sort of oud rose fragrance, very easy to wear and very inexpensive. The next one, Boss Scent, the Private Accord. And this one is, now it doesn't have the best performance, but it is fairly inexpensive. I did manage to find it under $40. But it is sort of gourmandy. It has cocoa, and it has a lot of other of those kinds of notes. It's very sensual and very inviting. So it is definitely something that's really good for the fall, and definitely worth checking out. You might even be able to find that one in department stores just to try it out. And then, of course, you can go to an online discounter and get it for a much better price. Oftentimes, that's what I'll do. I almost exclusively buy, on the gray market because I can save tons of money that way. But it is nice to go to stores because you can often try out fragrances. You might even be able to get some free samples and see what you really like and what you're really interested in, and then you can save yourself some money on the gray market. Now the next one, Armaf Craze. I know I didn't want to have a lot of clones on. This one is really good. I found it, I think, for around $20, $25. And it is, basically, it's Pegasus by Parfums de Marly. Now, I'd heard this one had been discontinued, which would be another reason I would probably not put it on this list. But I saw it a lot. It was very easy for me to find. So if it is discontinued, it's still fairly easy to find. If you do like Pegasus, this is something definitely in that vein, and it performs very well. It's always funny, I think, because a lot of people have been saying stuff or asking stuff about whether a fragrance is feminine or masculine, and there are some fragrances that I think are definitively that way, but Pegasus smells a lot like Hypnotic Poison by Dior. I think it's that version of Poison, and that's marketed towards women, but then Pegasus is marketed towards men, and I've also had women sample or smell Pegasus, and they did say it was feminine. So I really think that a lot of this masculine feminine stuff is, a lot of it anyways, is marketing. I don't know how many fragrances are, you know, by nature masculine or feminine. And so it's very funny. I think it's always interesting anyways when you see a fragrance that basically smells like another fragrance. One's marketed to men, one's marketed to women. Both are very popular. Anyways, there are some differences with Pegasus or Craze as opposed to Hypnotic Poison. I think there's more of that sort of almondy vibe, but I don't really remember. Anyways, that's a good one to check out. I am actually a big fan of Pegasus. The next one I have a bottle of, in fact, it's my scent of the day, and that is Insurrection 2 Wild. And this one is similar to Pure Havane. Now, I think maybe it is supposed to be a direct clone of it, but I will say it's not the best clone. If you're really looking for something that smells exactly like Pure Havane, it definitely has a lot of the qualities of the fragrance. It has a similar DNA, but there's a lot that's a little bit different. So it doesn't have as much of that honeyed tobacco, which I think with Pure Havane is something that's a lot more potent. There is definitely more of a cherry in this than there is in Pure Havane, and not as much honey. But it's very good, performs very well, and it's definitely good for the colder weather, and it is getting colder around here. And as I've always mentioned with this one, I think this is a nice looking bottle. Honestly, this is one I wouldn't mind displaying on my shelf. A lot of cheapies, they have cheap looking bottles, even though they might smell good. This is a nice looking bottle. This is actually very classy. I like the little curve in it, or whatever. Now, another one by them, and I haven't actually tried it, so I didn't put it on this list, Insurrection 2 Dark, and it's supposed to be similar to Spice Bomb. It's also around $20, $25. Now, I haven't tried it, as I mentioned, so I don't want to say it's great. It could be horrible. But if you do get the chance to try it out, it might be worth getting your nose on as well. Next one on the list, another one that I do actually have, and that is John Varvatos Dark Rebel. And this is just this really well put together, boozy, leathery tobacco fragrance. And if you like those kinds of fragrances, you'll almost certainly like this one. Now, the performance of this one isn't great, but I think that's the case for every John Varvatos fragrance. They all last a few hours. This one I get about 4 hours out of. And honestly, sometimes that's nice. Sometimes I only go out for a couple hours, and then I just want something that can last a couple hours, and then if I go out again or whatever, I can put something else on and not have to worry about it. And this one, really, really nice. Sort of that bad boy fragrance, if you like that. I like putting on my leather jacket with this one because I think it works with that. That sort of whole vibe. And good quality, lasts about 4 hours. It's a really nice one to check out if you haven't. Next one, Boss Bottled Intense. This is one I am actually thinking of picking this one up because it's very cheap. I think I've seen it $20 or less US dollars, which I think is a good price for 100 ml. Now, the Intense is the one you want to get. I've heard nothing but, bad things about the EDP or bland things about the EDP. And the regular Boss Bottled is just not as strong enough. But this has great notes in it. Cinnamon, it has apple. It does kind of have, I mean, there are a lot of fragrances with this sort of apple pie DNA, and this has something to that effect. But it's done really, really well. It's executed really, really well. Very classy, elegant fragrance that performs well as well. So worth checking out for sure. The next one I was a little bit surprised that I could find for this price. Now, it is or was only a 1 ounce that I found, and that's Terra Herms. I'm not a huge fan of Terra Herms. I have the Eau Très Fresh. I love the Eau Très Fresh. But the Terra Herms DNA is very, very popular with a lot of people. A lot of people don't like it, so this is one you definitely want to try out first because it's one of those, it does tend to be one of those like or dislike fragrances where you're either going to like it or you're not. And so it is one to try out, but it's spicy, it's woody, it has a little bit of this dirty orange vibe. And, that doesn't work for a lot of people. I do actually like the tart orange, but I like the way that it's executed in the Eau Très Fraîche more, me personally. But it is one that's worth trying. It is classy. It's definitely different, and it is one that I think does stand out. So it's one that could easily be an easy daily wear or signature scent for the fall. And so that would be one that I think you should also check out. Next on the list, I am going to have the sport version, Encry Noir. Really could be any of the ones from the line. If you like vetiver, you've probably heard about this fragrance a lot. If not, it is definitely one worth checking out. Now, the whole line is good, although I would say Encry Noir Sport and L'Extrême are the best of the three. And so if you're going to try it out, one of those. Encry Noir Sport, I think, is the easiest one to like. Even in the fall, I think it fares really well because it is sort of this really dark, or not really dark, but a dark vetiver fragrance. Has a little bit of an inky vibe, and it has a little bit of a soapy quality in the dry down. In the opening, it does have a little bit of slight aquatic vibe. And one of the things that I find with a lot of vetiver fragrances, I get this sort of dark, marshy kind of a vibe. And Encry Noir, it definitely has that. The biggest difference, I think, between this and, say, L'Extrême, there are multiple differences, but the biggest one is that the L'Extrême is a lot earthier. So if you really like those earthy vibes, you might want to go with L'Extrême. But this is a really good, high-quality vetiver fragrance for, I think there's 100 ml for $25, maybe even less, and worth every penny, and it's worth checking out. So anything really from the Encry Noir line. My personal favorite is Sport, but I do also really like the L'Extrême. Now, this one, of course, you've heard about a lot, or maybe not. Bentley for Men Intense. I have a sample of it here. Looking forward to doing a full review of this one soon, so I'm not going to say too much of it. But this is a sort of boozy, masculine fragrance, and a lot of people really do like this one. So I think it's definitely worth checking out. And the last one, I think it's good. It's definitely a good one for dates. It's a good one for really any kind of colder weather, but it does work really well for dates, and that is Azzaro Wanted by Night. Very cool bottle. Of course, everybody talks about the bottle, which looks like part of a revolver. But this one actually works really well. Very, very sweet. Opens up with a very sort of almost aquatic mandarin orange. It's got cinnamon in there that really, really works. And this is one that I've definitely worn on a date and gotten compliments before. So I do enjoy this one quite a bit. And it is a performer, honestly. Very strong. For even just a few sprays with this one will probably work for at least 6 to 8 hours. There is also the Azzaro Wanted, which is good. I prefer By Night over Wanted, but you might want to check out the regular Azzaro Wanted as well, because I know some people certainly prefer that one. But anyways, guys, that is going to be my list. I'm going to cut it right there. Leave a comment down below. What is your favorite fall or wintertime cheapie, your cold weather cheapie that you love to wear, that is your go-to? Let me know in a comment down below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.